Hi, we're back again, and we want to share a very meaningful video from Dr. Greger all about forest bathing. When we used to backpack in the backcountry, we loved it so much. We loved everything about it, and especially nature and the beauty of nature. And Dr. Greger talks about the value of exploring nature and really getting intimate with it.
Yeah, when I first heard that term, forest bathing, I thought, oh, here we go, woo-woo. But like Connie says, we think back and how drawn we were to go into the backcountry every summer numerous times, to sleep on the earth, to be out in the elements, to just not see people for a while and to breathe in that what we would call it's like a purity. There's just something, the air is so clean and all the fragrances of the trees and all the flora and fauna. And isn't it interesting? Here's science saying this is really helpful. This increases, this boosts your immune system. So isn't it interesting that all of our ancestors, they were always forest bathing. They didn't have an option.
True.
And so our physiology, our bodies evolved with the support of what Dr. Greger and the scientists are pointing out. It's really good to be close to nature. We are part of nature. And the more we extract ourselves from it and create our little sterile, healthy environments that we keep proving are not so healthy.
Yeah.
Get back in the forest. Get back closer to our roots. Yeah. All right, here it is.
Previously, I showed how exposure to nature can have self-reported psychological benefits, but there was a dearth of data on changes in objective measurements, so I was excited to see this paper on the effects on levels of the stress hormone cortisol in the saliva of those partaking in forest bathing, which just means visiting a forest and surrounding yourself by trees. The level of cortisol in your saliva is considered an indicator of your stress level, and after walking in a forest compared to walking in a city, or even just after hanging out in a forest compared to a city, people's salivary cortisol levels were significantly lower. But wait a second, the same effect was found before they went to the forest. Huh? Forest bathing was associated with significantly lower salivary cortisol both before and after compared with visiting an urban area. Therefore, it appears that just the thought of going to spend the day in a forest relieved stress. So when comparing the effects of forest bathing versus urban visiting, the anticipation placebo effect may play a more important role in influencing stress levels than the actual experience of being in a forest. So I was ready to dismiss it as just another nebulous psychological effect until I read this. Studies on the effects of forest bathing on the immune function showed that visiting a forest can induce a significant increase in the number and activity of natural killer cells, one of the ways our body fights off cancer. That got my attention. It all started with this study. 12 men were taken on a long weekend to walk in some forests, and almost all the subjects, 11 out of 12, showed higher natural killer cell activity after the trip. And not just a little, about a 50% increase compared to before the trip. Now, just exercise can affect immune function, but they weren't walking any extra. They were just walking in a forest instead. Yeah, but they also were taken on a trip somewhere, introducing other variables. So, how about randomizing them to go on some city trip versus the forest trip? And if there is some special forest effect, how long does the effect last? Do you have to walk in the forest every day? Before jumping into all that, how about we first see if it works in women, too? Same kind of setup and same results, a significant boost in natural killer cell activity walking around in the woods, and this time they went back a week later to retest them, and they were still up. though after a month they came back down. But hey, I mean, once a week should do it, but it was a multiple-day trip. I mean, who has time to hang out in forests all weekend, every weekend? How about just a little day trip? The title gives it all away. Boom, same thing, right? Same big jump measured the day after the trip compared to before, and with the same staying power, natural killer cell activity still boosted a week later. This suggests that if people visit a suburban forest park once a week on a day trip, they may be able to maintain the increased anti-cancer immunity. Okay, but I'm still not convinced. I mean, how can you attribute the benefit to the forest itself when all you have is before and after data? To make the case that nature had anything to do with it, you'd need a control group that, took the same kind of trip but went to somewhere else instead. And here we go. It turns out visiting a forest but not a city increases human natural killer activity. Here's the forest data, just like before, but nothing on a trip to go walking in a city. By the end of the forest trip, 80% of the subjects experienced a boost compared to only 1 in 10 of the city walkers. And both trips were matched for physical activity and alcohol and sleep, other things that can affect immune function. And so here we go, confirmation of boosted immunity, but only on the forest trip, indicating that forest bathing does indeed enhance natural killer cell activity. Moreover, they found that the increased activity lasted up to 30 days after the trip. Check it out. Right, still up a week later, and even a bit up a month later. Right? This suggests that if people visit a forest once a month, they may be able to maintain increased natural killer cell activity. Okay, so now that we know that it's a real effect, the next question is, why? What is it about forests that gives us the boost? And you can imagine the big pharma thinking, right? Can you make it into a pill? We'll find out next.
So there you have it. It gives you a reason to get out in nature and to enjoy every bit of that experience because it supports us. It supports our health.
Yeah. And in the next video that we'll give you the link to, he shares some research that is showing at least some of the elements that are involved and how the immune system is boosted. And one of the main things are the essential oils that are in the air, the smell of the forest when you go in. What we're smelling are what we often refer to as essential oils, and how that plays a role in boosting the immune system. And when I heard that, it reminded me of when we had a garden. We've always had a garden wherever we lived until we bought the townhouse here. And how I loved going out in the morning. I would always take the compost out from the day before and put it on the pile. And I would stop and pick some weeds, or I'd pick some strawberries or some housecat berries, cherries, whatever, and touch the tomato plants as I was weeding. And there would be the fragrances, those essential oils that come off the plants in the garden. And I realized, whoa, there's forest bathing, and my experience seems to validate the same thing about gardening, garden bathing. And it's interesting, they've done research, they've shown research that people that have gardens live longer.
Yeah, it makes sense. So get intimate with nature in the way you love to do it, and especially the more remote parts of nature, like forests.
Yeah.
Good for our health.
Yeah. And keep in mind, science has isolated the idea that it's these essential oils that really make such a difference. But I think we get so lost in our reductionist view, the way we use science. So let's find the active ingredient. And so all the other ingredients really don't have much to do with it. But it's the combination of everything together. It's great to find these little elements that seem to really be potent parts of the whole puzzle, but it's the whole puzzle that's important. Just taking essential oils and putting them in your house will be a benefit, but not nearly the same benefit as going out into the forest.
And breathing them in from the beauty of nature. So the recipe today is called monkey muffins, and it's really yummy and really, really quick to make. So give them a try. Bill gives you several options as to how to flavor them.
I think they're called monkey muffins. Well, it's kind of a variation on the monkey bars. You can find recipes for. I think they're called monkey bars because there's bananas. This has a couple of ripe bananas in it, so it has kind of a banana-y taste to it. So we're all monkeys when we eat them.
Enjoy.
Thanks for joining us.